Good morning. This is Dr. Matthew Dunn, host of The Future of Email Marketing. And my guest this morning, we were just talking about looking in a mirror here, is Christopher, or is Chris or Christopher Carr?
Well, I mean, it's Chris. The reason why it's Christopher is because everyone calls me by my first name and last name at the same time.
I had that same
everyone's just like, yeah, but it was like, hey, Chris Carr. I'm like, just Chris. You know what I mean? So when I made it Christopher, I got a little bit of
exactly. So Chris is the president of Farotech. We'll come back to that in just a second. But I had the same problem with Matt Dunn.
Yeah.
Ding ding. And
ding,
and
ding. Yeah.
yeah, and I was like, okay, we're going with Matthew, and now I have to be kind of ruthless about no, it's not Matt. Only my mom calls me that, and occasionally my wife. But anyway,
yeah, that's right. When I'm in trouble.
well, Christopher Carr, president of Farotech, Philadelphia based. Would you describe yourself as a marketing agency as a whole now?
Yes, we are.
So talk a bit about Farotech, what customers you serve and what you do for them.
Sure. So we are, we're an inbound marketing agency located just outside the city of Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. Started it when I was 21 years old. So this year actually marks our 20th anniversary. I'm 43. And so I fuddled around for 2 years and then started to get serious, about 20 years ago. And yeah. And so, we have about 20 full-time employees, and then with subcontractors, about 50 of us, working on a daily basis.
Wow.
Yeah. We are a platinum partner with HubSpot. Yeah. And so we really believe in the power of automation, marketing automation, the ability to develop what we call like systems as opposed to solutions, because a lot of people will come to us and they basically put all their eggs in one basket. They want to be good at SEO, and then an algorithm changes and they could lose everything. Or, I want to be good at Facebook marketing, and then something like Apple comes along and says, hey,
right,
we're going to change the knob, we're going to turn the knobs on privacy, and now Facebook marketing doesn't work nearly as good. And
right.
So what happens here is that, we've helped companies develop a whole comprehensive system. And so what we're able to do is we're able to throttle certain dials and double down on sort of what matters most.
Gotcha. Much more sort of I'm looking, so you use the word system already, systematic, but systematic for marketing across the company as a whole, not just this channel, that channel automated.
Correct.
How long with HubSpot?
Since 2012.
Okay, quite relatively long time. I've watched HubSpot grow with a good deal of interest over the last decade or so. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, they did you ever heard of the TV show Silicon Valley?
Yeah.
That's they're making fun of Salesforce and HubSpot. Okay,
yeah, wasn't there was a book and then a film about a guy who went to work there?
Yeah,
closer to my age, not closer to 20.
Yeah. You know what's weird though is this, and this is the only problem I have with that is that, like, as a guy who's built this company of just only a meager 20 people, like, it is so easy for someone to come in there and then write a tell-all book, and I'm just like, what have you ever built? Like, building a business is so hard. You know what I mean? Like, the easy thing to do is to write a book on everything that, you know what I mean? I don't know. I'm not saying that they're without fault, but you know what I mean? Like, I enjoyed the book thoroughly. Yeah. But then I got thinking, I'm like, God, I'd hate for someone to be analyzing every detail of what I do. It's just the ship got so big. It's just hard to, I don't know.
Well, I mean,
it's hard to pitch a perfect game.
Talk about that. I mean, if there's some, future 20-year-old Christopher, 21 now, Christopher Carr, listening to this, thinking, maybe I'll start my own thing. And do you have a smile when you talk about building business? And congratulations, 20 years is like, that's a big deal, but it is hard. I agree, it's hard. What's hard about it?
Well, I think what happens is that scaling your growth is probably one of the biggest challenges that you have. And so what I mean by that is that so one of the analogies that I kind of use a lot is that, in the East, Chick-fil-A is a really big company. And the problem that people don't know is that for like 20 years, they were just in malls, and they were not, maybe shorter amount of time, but nobody knew about them. But all they did was they just kept making the chicken better and better and better. And
Hmm.
then once the product was really good, then they figured out how to scale. And what happens here, I think, in entrepreneurship is that we hear that these technology companies are overnight successes and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And if you don't have your people in place, and if you're not constantly refining your product, and you don't have a developed significant process internally and externally, like, I don't know how to describe it. You bleed. You don't know you're going to bleed. You think you got it all covered, but you bleed.
Right.
And
Right.
so one of the things I would tell my younger self is like, you know what? It's going to be all right. Like, you're going to you always want to be at another level.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I don't know. I've got a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old.
Awesome.
If I was, $3 million richer, I might not see them as much. Do you know what I mean? And it's just one of those things. It's just, you'll get there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't think I would, if I was to say when I first started, here's where you'd be in 20 years,
Hmm.
I wouldn't believe that either. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
really? Good
Yeah.
for you. Good
Yeah.
for you. And you started Farotech as web design and development, correct?
Web only. Yeah.
Yeah. And then was
Yep.
it a hard right turn pivot to marketing, or was it gradual big old sweeping curve?
Now, we create great websites, and then they say, well,
Yeah.
you create a really great website, but nobody
Yeah.
can find it.
Yeah.
And so then we pivoted from developing websites to SEO.
Yes, yeah. Okay.
And then people were saying, hey, you know what? Great website. Now I'm on first page of Google, but for some reason our phone still isn't ringing enough.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then I got into conversion science and was something I call CRO, which is just conversion rate optimization.
Okay.
And so now we sort of have the complete system.
So
The other thing is that I failed a lot. And what I mean by that is that I know that from an SEO perspective, I'm one algorithm change away from losing, could lose everything, or one Facebook algorithm change, like even what Apple's doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when I help companies build comprehensive systems,
Hmm.
if one part of the system, not falls apart, but I have to make a serious pivot on,
Mhm.
I can just rely on the other parts of the system.
Sounds
Like-
like you've also thought the system through into in terms
Mhm.
of maintenance tuning, being able to adjust to those external changes
Yeah.
rather than having it so tightly bound to how company X is running that, that particular
Yep.
piece of it.
Well, the challenge I have is I work with a number of companies that have a marketing guy or gal, which is great. The
Mhm.
problem is that marketing is moving so fast that I don't believe it's a one-man job anymore. So that person's either going to have to hire internally
Mhm.
or they're going to have to outsource,
Mhm.
which is fine. But the problem is that then you're outsourcing for SEO, and then you got to outsource for maybe social media.
You're trying
And
to
you're
all
gonna
those
be
back
outsourcing
together.
for content, and then all of a sudden you got to make a change, and now you're calling 3 different vendors, and
Right.
even you know what I mean. It's there's inefficiency with all of that stuff, and so we worked really hard to have a lot of different companies all in one company. So
I
we
see.
are a design and development from web.
Mhm.
We do the web development, the SEO, and all of the the marketing automation all under one roof.
Right. Right. And
So-
is that specifically are all of your customers running that set of functions on HubSpot as an engine?
Most of them are.
Most of them.
Most
Okay.
of them.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there are certain things that HubSpot isn't. If they come to me and they already have Salesforce and Pardot, then I play in what they're already using. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
But there's just certain clients that, our average retainer is around between 8,000 and maybe 15,000 a month.
Hmm.
And so there's a level of sophistication that our clients sort of have to have
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
order, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we do run into situations where there's other platforms we can use for certain campaigns or certain initiatives or something like that. Or if I find a client that has tremendous growth potential,
Mhm.
and HubSpot, the paying the HubSpot fee is the barrier to us working
Ah.
together,
Yeah. Okay.
because that
Okay.
happens too.
Yeah.
Do you know
Yeah.
what
Yeah. It definitely could be a daunting bite. I haven't looked at their pricing structure in a couple of years, but it was like,
The lowest is 1,000 a month. So
yeah. And for
I-
a lot of startups, that would be a bite they wouldn't
Yeah.
necessarily make. You touched on it, and I'm curious your thoughts about it. You touched on the shift that Apple made recently with iOS 14.5 and the app privacy policy and the effect that the knock-on effect that that's had on Facebook's kind of the marquee. Um,
Yep.
what are your thoughts on that? Where do we go from here?
You know, they will, Facebook will figure something out. The hard part, Google says they're going to go towards this approach eventually too, within a year.
Yeah.
I see so much upside for companies who do marketing to be able to engage with people, to know their buying habits, and to do all this stuff. I think it'll be called something different, and it might not be one-to-one what we see right now, but I think that some sort of technology curve will happen where we're still doing those things. In other words, I just don't think these companies are like, okay, I've seen the light, I'm going to stop doing those. I think, you know what I mean? Like, I think that they'll just find another way in. It's kind of like like the cartels. Like if you put up a wall, they're going to like drill under it and go into like a Kentucky Fried Chicken in Texas.
Get a submarine and bring stuff through the ocean. I mean, for sure, we're starting to grapple with with the privacy consequences of a networked world, both at a policy level, at a brand level. Apple certainly is flying that flag for themselves, but it's even a fairly normal conversation with just about anybody now. You've got you've got the spectrum of I don't care to I really don't want anyone knowing anything about me, and Apple has said, well, push the button you prefer. It's been good for them.
I just don't like the language that they do.
Yeah? How come?
Well, I mean, literally they make it sound like, do you want to be tracked? You know what I mean? It's just like, you know what I mean? Like the same question is said, hey, you know what? When you're looking for a washing machine, do you want us to give you other washing machine options? Do we want to make your buying experience better? You know what I mean? Like there's value. There's value on the other side. If I'm trying to align myself to find the best products and services, and I don't have the time to do the research, I like being spoon-fed. So like, for example, like when I was asked that question, I said, track me, because I want to know about things that I don't know about. If you know my interest,
and there's an efficiency to it, right?
Yeah. You know, I mean, it's the same reason why I believe in, please don't, I'm not going into this conspiracy theory, but I think it's a matter of time before people have chips in their body, because whatever that chip will be, will make life more efficient. I don't know where they're going with that, but you're not going to just be like, I want to have a chip in my body. But if I don't know, maybe it starts my car and it opens my front door and it does all that stuff. Well, eventually. How often is
this chip? And I'm holding up my phone. If you're listening to this on a podcast, how often is that chip more than 3 feet from my body? Like almost never.
Exactly.
That set of chips.
And then if they were never tracking, I said, what if this thing could predict your actions before you do it? You're like, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you want to track you? Oh my gosh, that sounds terrible. I'm like, well, it matters. I mean, I'm a content marketer, so it literally, it's whatever side of the coin you're on. I ride a bike, like I do cycling in Philadelphia. And when I'm driving a car, these cyclists, they really got to figure something out, because I'm driving a car and they're totally in my lane. I got to drive 15 miles per hour behind them. They are such a nuisance. But when I'm on a bike and the car's behind me, I'm like, these people want to kill me. You know what I mean? So literally it just depends on which perspective you're looking at. Do you know what I mean?
Perspective you're looking at.
And that's the same argument here, right? It's like, I don't want to be tracked. But at the same time, I would like to be able to know about things with thinking less.
Yeah, the set of knobs and gears that are tougher for the individual making that decision, looking at that dialogue in an app, are the knock-on complexities that come with the yes or no. And by that I mean poorly articulated. By that I mean I might want yes. I'm hunting for a washing machine, so I'd like washing machine ads for now. But then I don't know how to say, all right, I bought one, so shut up.
Right? I always thought that they should just have a drop-down menu, like, got one. You know what I mean? I even
Yeah.
got the same shoes you're marketing for.
Yeah.
So
Same
Amazon,
shoe.
yep.
I,
Running
yeah.
shoes. I'm wearing them.
Right.
Tell me
Right.
something else.
Right. You know, like I just bought that from you.
Exactly.
Right.
Seriously. Yeah.
So you just
Yep.
wasted some of your ad spend on me because
Yeah.
I already bought that from
Yep.
you.
I'm
Yeah.
pretty confident. I think I've seen a drop down menu that says, don't show me this ad. And I think one of the options
Hmm.
actually is like, you know what I mean? Like no longer has value to me or something, whatever
Yeah.
that is. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
There was an announcement yesterday. I don't know if you caught this because this will give us a little segue into conversation. Um, Apple announced yesterday at their developer conference that they're going to do somewhat the same thing with email and pixels that they've done with apps.
Mm.
Yeah, that same reaction. Quite a bit of discussion in the email marketing world and the forums and so on. It's like the net of it, you know, quick digest of email threads from last night. As Google does in Gmail, it looks like Apple may be putting a proxy in between email clients and image requests, which is
Yep.
how most things are tracked. Which means we'll get
Hmm.
no location information, more arm's length information. Doesn't mean you can't send a unique pixel to me, a unique pixel to you. So it doesn't rule out all of that data entirely.
Yep.
But here's the one that I found interesting. Someone parsed the language of the announcement, and it sounded like they said, what we're going to do is load all that stuff immediately. Like, so if you send email to me and I'm on an Apple device, it's going to show that I read it, whether or not I ever opened it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not good. I mean, one of the things that I don't know the numbers on, but
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of entrepreneurs that are just like me in the fact that our email list outgrew mail.app anyway. And so what I'm hoping is that a lot of the people that I'm trying to do are using the native, if they're doing Google for Business, that I'm hoping that they're using like Google for Business, or they're using something that is built from their company that's a little bit more enterprise.
Mm.
I think, and I don't know where that proxy would come from. Is it just on mail.app or is it,
Right. Right.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I feel like that mail.app has some serious growing pains to do to catch up with Gmail's. It's like, I don't know how to describe it. Like for one of the richest companies in the world, they neglect some basic things in mail that, I don't know. Maybe I'm just a sophisticated user and I don't think I am.
I'm
not.
I mean, you are a sophisticated user, but
Yeah.
I agree with you actually.
Yeah.
And I sat in front of, I'm sitting in front of a Mac. I've got an iPhone there.
Mhm.
I lived in Apple's mail clients up until a couple of
Mhm.
years ago, and I was like,
Yeah.
yeah. Like just
I
It
know.
feels like it's 10 years old, and it probably is
Yep.
more than 10 years old.
Their search functionality is horrible.
Yeah, it's like just doesn't
Yeah.
cut it, right?
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
Gmail, like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's almost like too fine tuned. Like I go into Gmail and I just like type in the word like not, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden, like every time I've said not in the last 15 years,
Yeah,
it
it's
shows
right.
up. It's like,
It's right
boom.
there. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And at the same time, there's the power of the default, right? Because of Apple's vertical stack, hardware all the way through
Yeah.
to
Yep.
chips all the way through to whatever, or vice versa. Um, a lot of Gmail customers, a lot of Gmail accounts are using the default mail client on their iPhone to get to that Gmail. And maybe that's where you were going with saying, how are
Yep.
they going to proxy? It's not necessarily going to be an Apple address only
Mhm.
that they're proxying.
Yeah. I know. It's going to be a challenge.
It's going to be a
Yeah.
challenge.
I mean, we've been here before. Like, remember I was saying, like building your house on sand? I remember when Google made the promotions tab.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
On Gmail. Like
Yeah.
it was like, email marketing's dead. I'm like, no, it's not. We'll
No.
find a way.
Well,
It's
yeah.
like water. You know what I mean? Like we're gonna find a way. It's
Well,
just,
we kind of have to, right?
Yeah.
And that's not just survival of an agency or a business or something like that, but
Mhm.
marketing's that joint point between a business that's got products, ultimately products and services. Ultimately, someone wants to buy them, right? You're trying to help
Yeah.
make that
Yep.
connection between people. So
Yes.
there's an interest
Yep.
on the customer side as well, for sure.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, do you know who Neil Patel is?
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, so I'm looking up on his own app. Give me 1 second here. I'm looking up his traffic report because I don't want to guess, but it's, yeah, looking at 7 million, close to 8 million visits to his website every single month, right? That's a lot, right? He's the king of data, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what his number one thing that he says drives traffic?
Email, right?
Email.
And I've been on a couple of his lists, and he emails a lot, and he puts out an amazing amount of content.
Yeah. Yeah. I just find it very hard to believe, right? That all of the businesses, you know what I mean? Like all of us are just now doomed.
Yeah.
We're not. We're not. I mean, we're going to take time to figure it out. Yes, we are. But you know what? The good part is we're all drinking from the same well.
Yeah. Well, I've got to, sorry, go ahead, Christopher.
No, I mean, we're all drinking from the same well. In other words, is it a challenge? Yes. Will we figure it out? Yes. But it's not like Apple says only 50% of America has to deal with this. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like all companies everywhere have to deal with it. So it's a little bit of a level playing field. The question, and this is the same thing with COVID. This is the same thing with all the stuff. This is why Toys R Us doesn't exist anymore. If you as a business can't pivot, if you as a business can't try to solve these problems, right? Like you can cry as much as you want, but it's not going to solve this thing for you. And so what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to rely on specialists that have the firepower, the access to technology, all this stuff that solve these things for real. You know what I mean? Like if my toilet broke and my only answer was my Uncle Joe, right? And Uncle Joe can't fix it. I'm like, am I not going to have a toilet in my house? Like, no, you keep going up higher and higher and higher until you solve it, right?
Right. It's worth paying for the specialist.
Absolutely.
Who can fix it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. 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 And I mean, that's just a business decision. Go out of business or, engage expertise X to fix problem Y.
And people way smarter than you that think of email every single day are thinking at it at like a 401, like a NASA level.
Yeah.
If you're thinking about it, you're probably thinking about it at a 101 level.
Yeah.
Guys way smarter than you that have already we're not being like, okay, maybe we should just throw in the towel and become realtors.
Well, there's a recurrent thread with these many conversations I've had with podcast guests about email, and maybe it's biased because we're picking folks who work in that media to at least some extent. But I've had nobody go, email's dead. Nobody said that. They almost always are in your camp and my camp, which is like believe it or not, like that's the most valuable link you've got to your customer base. You may not be using it particularly well.
Yeah.
But the list. Is a gold mine, is your asset. And Neil Patel, right? That's his number one way to drive traffic.
I mean, a carpenter makes $15 an hour, uses a hammer, and so did Michelangelo.
Fair point. 23 when he carved the PA tot. Still makes my jaw drop. Wow.
Yeah.
That if Apple's tracking change, which we're only speculating about at this point, if Apple's tracking change goes into effect, all I see that changing in terms of conventional email marketing is the veracity of some of the measures. It's still on you to provide interesting content, and Apple's not saying we're not going to show your content.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
And in more narrowcast, our particular company, Campaign Genius, real-time content, it's the same delivery mechanism. And I read that announcement and I was like, yeah, our stuff will still work, right? I'll still be able to change what's in the inbox, sale, this week's sale. It may bounce to a proxy to get there, but so what, right? Mm-hmm. It's more interesting if it's more relevant people to read it.
A lot of it'll impact retargeting for a while.
Mm-hmm.
It'll impact things related to like where Facebook was complaining about just pixel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it'll relate to what you do after the email. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
Because we developed these 3-prong email approaches where we will send the same email 3 different times, 3 different days, right? But if you open it, you get off of that list.
Okay.
So I'm going to change the subject line. I'm going to change the time of day.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I'm really like just going to the people that just have never opened it in any way, shape, or form. But the ones who do open it, we put it into a very sophisticated marketing automation list.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? So we're going to be segmenting. Before we even did that, we segmented and then we blasted on day one. The people that opened went into a drip marketing list. The people who didn't open will get the same email again, because it doesn't matter how it could be Shakespeare, but if nobody opened it, right? Like they don't know what's inside. And so what we're doing is we're measuring the click-through rate, but we're also measuring the subject line. And then the subject line, did the email get them to my website? And if they got to my website, did they get a retargeting cookie? And then ultimately, in the ideal sense, did they get a HubSpot tracking code? Yeah. And so, we're really hoping to do that. But I also think that one of the critical things in email is if you have lead scored them, this is what we help clients do. If we have lead scored them prior to this, or there's a level of ways of segmentation based upon knowing if they're in the awareness stage, consideration stage, or decision level stage. If I can marry really great content to where we believe you are in the buyer's journey, right? I'm going to get considerably higher engagement rates. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like if I'm trying to buy a car and literally I'm getting prices from a dealership, the email that says, "Hey, do you want to try the Hyundai Sonata?" doesn't matter to me anymore. Right. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. But if I am in the awareness stage and I'm like, you know what, my car either broke down or I want something new, maybe the Hyundai Sonata might be a good fit for me. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. They still make Hyundai Sonatas. Literally the first car that came to my mind. I don't even know.
Hyundai's happy.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And long story short is that where they stack up in the buyer's journey, it's like the more you know about them, and if you can get really creative about how you segment and getting the right message to the right client at the right time. Yeah. That's where we feel like it really works.
I was going to ask you about that because it's kind of it's implicit in what you just said. Like the job of understanding the customer journey, and not just understanding it, systematizing it well enough to define those stages, to look for the signals. That's not trivial. That's not easy.
No, it's not.
Yes, and you've helped a range of industries. Yep. Do that job, even though their customers are not the same, their journeys are not the same.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, is it still a numbers game? Yes. But what if I could increase your conversion rate or your engagement rate by 15 to 18%? Right. Would that be of interest to you? You know what I mean? Because just bringing a little bit of knowledge into who you're talking to matters. What you say to them matters. Like, for example, we work very heavily in the orthopedic marketing space, right? CMOs won't pick up the phone for me and they won't open my emails. I'm a marketing company that helps orthopedics, or orthopedics practices. But if I go and I email the surgeons, it's their practice. They own it. And then they go and they email the CMO, and then the CMO has to come to me. It's not like it's one of those things where it's just like they all have a boss. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? And so my point is that if I hedge the language towards, we got really great results, talk to your CMO about how we can augment your team. Yeah. That's very different than going to CMOs and saying, I can make your job better. I can do all this, the same marketing ease that everyone's saying. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I got you. And the work of understanding that industry and the probable structure, ownership structure. Yep. It didn't happen overnight. That took time, conversations, really learning the market, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the other things too, is that we developed these, like, this is a gap assessment right here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Beefy document he's holding up.
Beefy document. Yeah. Yeah. Anyhow, is this on video or just audio? Because I want to make sure that I say it right. Both. Okay, great. So so this thing looks like a phone book. So what happens here is that the joke we say is that if you went to your routine physical, it's January 1, and you said, hey, Dr. Chris, I'm just here for a routine physical. And I said to you, you'd be an excellent candidate for open heart surgery. You'd be like, what are you talking about? I'm here for physical. I'm like, yes, but you'd be an excellent candidate for open heart surgery. You're like, dude, are you going to run any tests? Are you going to do anything? I didn't come here. You're not for that, right?
Yeah.
That happens in my space all the time.
Interesting.
You come to me and you've got a problem, right? And I'm like, oh, so you're not getting enough clients. You're not going to reach your goals. Let me open up my $100 a month software. I agree. You're not getting those results. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to listen to this audio thing, and I got 20 minutes of your problems. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to write you a proposal for $100,000. And based upon that $100,000 is going to decide whether you're going to succeed or not for the next year. All of that is totally valid if you are in one, let's say hypothetically, one part of marketing, right? If you say it's social media or maybe SEO, sometimes that has complete validity. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to basically develop the entire solution of the entire system. So someone like me can't do that. So what I do is for 2 months, I say, I can't give you a quote. I can't overhaul your marketing,
right? Unless
I know every piece of data
about your business.
And then what I do is I put it on a scorecard. It's your 3 to 5 year roadmap to help you reach your goals. We figure out what your goals are. And we work backwards from 5 years to say, hey, if you say, hey, I want to be a $20 million company, I'm like, well, how many sales do you need to do to get $20 million? How many salespeople do you need? How many leads do each one of these salespeople need to get? What percent of market share do you need to do? Is there enough search volume to do that? And I basically look at every single thing. And then we use this book as a scorecard and a Bible for the next 5 years. You know what I mean?
Right.
70% structured, 30% nimble, because we don't know what we don't know. But it's the most scientific way of doing marketing.
Wow.
Now, in a very weird way, I said email marketing is it's a numbers game. You don't want to do that. Well, I'm sort of lying, meaning it's still, you don't want it to just be a numbers game. You want to bring sophistication to it. But ultimately, I don't like marketing companies that just, I don't know how to, they sell the dream without quantification.
Right. Or they sell the results somebody else happened to get.
Yeah.
Without necessarily being methodological about getting there.
Correct.
Oh, yeah. And this is 20 years of work.
Yep.
Into this process.
Yeah.
How different direction for a question. You've grown into the 50 people or so you mentioned before. How do you go about bringing someone new into the company and getting them to learn and understand what they need to learn and understand to do that job?
Yeah. Well, from an HR perspective, we make them do a tryout, which is very interesting because I get fooled by resumes all the time.
Yeah, smart.
And so what happens is I give them my sales deck and then they have to come and present to me and my directors. And so if they can survive the gauntlet, then I at least know that they have some general room control and they want to know this stuff. Like, and the biggest thing I'm looking for is the hunger or people that love marketing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff is teaching. And so what happens is they'll come in as a project manager and they'll be assigned to an account manager. The account manager could have 1 or 2 project managers under them. And it's almost like they're becoming an apprentice of an account manager until they're ready to take on accounts for themselves.
Yeah, I gotcha. Give them a chance to learn working with someone else.
Yep.
Applying your systematic approach.
Yep. And we spend between $8,000 and $10,000 a month just on software alone.
Right. Wow.
And so I know it sounds really weird, but a lot of it is like getting the data, putting it in the oven, which is these software programs, taking it out of the oven, and being smarting enough to decipher what you just saw, and then giving all the options to the client, and then we choose together which direction we want to go.
Right.
So like
that's a wide range of data in a couple of sentences there.
Yeah, it is. But we have a 93% retention rate, not because we come and say, hey, we're going to solve all your problems and listen to everything I say. My job is to say, we have access to data and methodologies and techniques that you don't have, that you don't even have the time or the expertise to have. Let's solve it together. I have what you don't have. I have the manpower you don't have, but you probably have the subject matter expertise that we don't have. Right. So what if I could amplify you? Would that be of value to you?
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yep.
Hmm. Yeah. It makes a ton of sense. Um, without delving into the brands too much,
Mhm.
the software engines that run your business. I mean, HubSpot we touched on already. Are
Mhm.
there any platforms that are particularly critical? You're like we really use the
Yeah.
heck out of X.
Yeah. We use SEM Rush a lot. That's
Okay.
from
Yeah.
the SEO perspective.
Yep.
We use WordStream for paid
Mm-hmm.
ads.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then a lot of like smaller ones that I would never have thought would be critical. There's one
Yeah.
called Phrase, Frase. Very interesting program that basically just looks at your content and analyzes it based upon the people who are already winning on page one of Google or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know a lot of these programs have analysis tools like that, but not like this. It's pretty cool
Really?
too. Yeah,
Wow.
very
That's
cool.
hopefully they pick that up. They be happy
Yeah,
to hear it because they're like
yeah,
someone somewhere struggled to make phrase.
that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. I mean, I think so many of these programs, if they're good, saw a piece of software and realized, you know what, it's close, but didn't solve the problem fully. So when I couldn't do it anymore, when I couldn't stand not having it anymore, I just built it myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Oh yeah.
that's how a lot of this stuff sort of happens. You know what I mean? Because these software programs are getting hyper niche. Like they're solving like one problem.
Yeah. Yeah. And it puts the challenge, it puts the challenge on you and your team as customers for that software of
Yep.
finding where it fits, and hopefully you can make it fit, and it's worth the time and
Yep.
effort and learning
Yep.
required to put it to use.
Did you know that if I wasn't to send you a YouTube clip and I sent it from my desktop and I said, hey, this YouTube clip, it's a 10-minute video. There's a button. I said, when I share it, I can share it from the 10-minute mark. When you
Right.
click on the link, it shares from the 10-minute mark.
Right.
You
Yeah.
can't do that on an iPhone, and you can't do that even on any Google phone either. You can only share the link and then write in the comment, hey, fast forward to the 10-minute mark.
Oh, because getting that right,
It's what we call a timestamp.
S
You know what I mean?
equals, yeah, whatever
Yeah.
TS equals.
So we got so tired of that my guys just build it in farotech.com/YT, right? I get no money for this.
Yeah.
Right? 20,000 people a month use that little one-page thing on my website, right? Because it's just a hole in the market. And I got so tired of telling people to fast forward that I was just like, I just built it.
One of our other companies handles a ton of video, and we went to the work of captioning in multiple languages. So we were dealing with caption files, which are pain. It's like it's a crude artifact. So I actually am a bit of an Excel junkie because I started in Excel 30 years ago, Microsoft version 1. Seriously. So I built a sort of caption handler in Excel to help me do that job. And I thought, oh, the heck with it, right? I just posted it on a page and said, hey, if you're trying to wrestle with captions, especially if you're trying to line up, the English and the Spanish captions, here's a spreadsheet that'll do a lot of that work for you. Regular, not your numbers, but regular downloads all the time, because it's niche, but it's a problem someone's got somewhere out in the world.
Yeah.
And if they find it, great.
It's bizarre, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I don't know how to describe it. Like, you get mad at these like $1 trillion companies. I'm like, you didn't think to do just this small little thing, like give a timestamp?
Yeah.
Like, don't you have like 1,000 employees that are all just playing volleyball? You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like they didn't think maybe I should just take an hour out of the volleyball game to. Yeah. I'm joking around because you know that Google has this flex time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But they're like literally like trying to figure out like the continental drifts of planets, intergalactic planets, and they don't think, hey, you know what? Maybe I should add a timestamp.
Timestamp.
You know what I mean? Like,
well, to be and to be a slightly sympathetic to them, frequently those code bases get to the size where the number of meetings it would take.
I know.
Right? Or like, so it actually constantly creates niches for the smaller, for the nimble to go.
It does.
I can help you with that. I mean, in some ways, that's the game we're playing. Like, we've built real time that goes in the email editor, and in conversations with email companies, like, you guys could build this yourselves. got 5 years and a really smart team, you could build it yourselves, or we can help
Mhm.
you solve the problem now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what's interesting because I get to talk to a lot of entrepreneurs and they see this wide net approach that I've done. And I was like,
Mhm.
don't do what I'm doing. Like get hyper
Yeah. The
personalized or
niche will make
specific
you
on
rich.
exactly, exactly. Like find a problem and solve that problem and then solve it for the world.
Right.
Right.
And
Don't,
preferably solve it really well.
yeah. Cause you wake up in my shoes one day and you're just like, you know what? I'm trying to be all things to all people all the time. And it's expensive and it's exhausting.
Hmm. So here's a wrap up trajectory for the conversation, which has been fantastic. Where do you want to take Farotech from here?
Well, ironically, so we have a VP of partner growth. And so the VP of partner growth is essentially he's in charge of sales and stuff like that. And we get
Mhm.
a lot of leads that come to us that are not exactly in our wheelhouse. All right. Meaning they're not in our wheelhouse, but they're not in these certain verticals that I want to be in. The problem is that the verticals I want to be in, the sales cycle is so long
Mhm.
that while I can try to get as many, irons in the fire and eventually pans out, we can't turn away that revenue. And so what we did was we hired him to go after the leads that come in and they pay the bills really well. And in the meantime, I'm able to go after the very specific clients we want to scale and grow our business.
Okay. So
Because
you're going to focus more on those niches strategically, it
yes,
sounds like.
yep. And until this happened, I was never able to do that because I was like, hey, Mr. Ideal client,
Hmm.
I got to take a non-ideal client that's willing to pay the bills. Now they become ideal in year two,
Right.
right?
Right.
But in year one, they're not nearly as profitable for us
Hmm.
because we got to literally, we're building books like this. Like
You got to learn their
is
industry, build a book like
exactly,
that for them.
exactly.
Yeah. Oh, that's an interesting dilemma. It's an interesting solution. I mean, it's kind of it's a bit the Clayton Christensen. If disruption is, you need a separate division
Yep.
working on the thing that's going to put you out of business. It can't be part of the same company, or it'll get sucked back into
Yeah.
serving your current client base. It sounds like that's what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Huh.
we're, we're, um, we're growing as a company, but then we're also monitoring how much we're growing to get the ideal clients of what we're looking for. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
You
so
want to grow, but you
eventually,
also want to improve.
correct.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the most that if I could look at my portfolio, and right now I probably have 30% ideal clients and 70% of the other clients that
Okay. Yeah.
are in the process of getting there,
Yeah.
right? What we're always looking at is like how much revenue can I get from ideal clients?
Mm, yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And how can you raise that
I
percentage?
correct. Now
Yeah.
ideal clients win very, very strong, very, very well for us, and they're
Mhm.
very profitable for us. It's the ultimate win-win.
Yeah.
These
Yeah.
other clients need what we have.
Yeah.
And so it's very hard to turn away revenue, and it's also very hard in our space to walk away from someone that has a problem that we know we can solve even if it's expensive.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
a very weird thing, like it's just how I'm wired
Yeah.
that like I
Yeah. You
go and
want
I
to help.
pitch, I hear their problem and I'm like, yeah, I can help with that.
Yeah.
You know what
But
I mean?
you have to learn an entirely new sector over X number of years to really
Happens
do that well.
happens all the time.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. I think
Yep.
it's admirable discipline to focus your vision on the strategic niche and
Yep.
try to grow that percentage of it. That takes some
Yeah.
rigor.
Yeah. Because you need the revenue to go.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
all have goals. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And if I just focus on what I'm trying to build,
Yeah.
like there's no guarantees in this world, especially one of our niches is healthcare, and these healthcare companies keep gobbling each other up. So
Yeah.
even if I do a great job, a client could put me on the streets just because they got acquired.
Right. Right. Or in some way, shape, or form, their industry got. Yeah, that's a tough niche to work in, or
It
tough
is.
space to work in.
It
Like
is.
highly
Yep.
regulated,
Mhm.
convoluted, not very well structured, all that other stuff.
Correct. Red tape all over the place.
Red
Yeah.
tape all over the place.
Yep.
Well, Christopher, when someone says, "Oh, I really want to talk with these guys," whether or not they're in your niche, how do they hunt down Farotech and have that
Yeah.
conversation?
So our website is Farotech, Farotech.com. And you could also email us at info@farotech.com as well. We'd be happy to set
info@farotech.com.
it up. Yeah.
Well, terrific. My guest this morning has been Christopher Carr, founder and president of Farotech. Chris, great conversation.
Yeah, this is great.
It was fun to speak.
Yeah, you're super easy to talk to. So this is good. I hope your guests